Hey, social. I'm gonna make this quick. There's a lot of events happening right now for those who have an ear to hear. Now, as I said before, there's three books written in the Bible. Superimposed are two of them, but you only see one. For right now, I'm gonna talk about a timeline, show you the sequence of events that's been happening. Now, when I say that, listen, I'm not gonna take the time to quote scriptures and break it all down for you in that sense. Why? It's not that I can't. The reason I don't is because I'm not here to teach you. I'm only sharing some information that might be beneficial to you. The job of you is to research, to know, not to believe. I don't want you to believe. I want you to challenge me. Everything I say, I want you to question it. If I'm wrong, prove me wrong. Shoot at me. Now, in the sense of the timeline of things, let's follow it. 144 years, according to the Bible, is one day of the Lord. For it saith that in the day ye sin, ye shall truly die. For one day of the Lord is 144,000 years. However, if we move forward, keep that in mind. At the same time, we got to understand, we know that the Christ said himself that you shall know in my second coming, for you shall see it in the stars, in the moons, in the sun, and in the heavens. Okay, in the sense of the heavens, in 2013 was the end of the Mayan calendar. Now, the Mayan calendar itself was not the end of the world. However, it did state and note out to you for your knowledge that on the news, what did they say? It's been exactly 144,000 years since this constellation has been visible. What constellation? The constellation of the snake, with which they say you could have been born under. So that tells you the snake in the Garden of Eden was also a date. Now, if we keep that moving forward, that was the heavens. Now, when you look at the current situation that's going on in the month of October, let's backtrack. They say Christ died when he was 33 and a half years old, but they're not sure the month in which he was born, but they know it was in the month of Nisan. However, since the days, the months, weeks have changed, they lost, but they haven't lost it because the math hasn't changed, though they may change the name. So if he died when he was 33 and a half years old, count back 6 months, and you come to the month of October. Now, this month is very interesting because the only holiday this month is the 31st. Now, when you look at it in the scriptures, it is say, Christ himself, Sermon on the Mount, he said that you shall know of his second coming, for it shall be known from, you shall see of it in the sun, in the moons with an S, in the stars, and in the heavens. Okay, let's backtrack. On the 1st and 2nd of October, there was a blue moon. Furthermore, on the 27th of October, nobody paid attention, but the sun woke up. And if you go and look at it and pay attention to NASA, you'll see that it had a lot of astronomical readings that took place, one of which was most important, that there was a cloud, a radiation, blocking the true sight of the sun from the earth. Why? Because the cloud had been sitting there for over 19 years. Now, since it had been there, it hadn't done anything. But once it moved, by the way, this is the 25th cycle of the sun. Now that it moved, there's been like 52 eruptions on the sun. I mean, extraordinary. But at the same time, there are 52 states. Keep that in mind. Now, when that occurred, however, when no one is realizing that NASA's already acknowledged that there is a great electromagnetic pulse that pushed forward and has been pushing out because, hey, now it's going to be much hotter, but the electric pulse is what we need to pay attention to. Now, that was another sign mentioned by the Christ regarding his second coming of the Lord. Then, what else did he say? Well, before we get on to the star tonight, yesterday, was Halloween. Halloween was another blue moon, so that's 2 moons, which he spoke of, moons. Now, then we come down to our stars. Now, I don't know if you paid attention because most people don't, but tonight, an asteroid is coming through our constellation, through our solar system. That's pretty interesting because that means everything that the Christ said has been proven true in that sense. But at the same time, it says that he shall come from the west and rise in the north. Hold on, let's back that up. His name is Jesus Christ. There's a reason they named him Jesus, but the Christ is a title for the anointed one. But I believe that Jesus was a reference not just to a name, but to a specific type of name, because it's relative to the continent from which it arrives. So the name Jesus or Jesus is relative to North America. Now, when we look at Halloween or Samhain, as you would refer to it, it comes from Rome, which starts in the west. However, in North America, Dallas Mortes, is today. So if you remember, Christ died and arose after 3 days, the 31st, the 1st, and then the 2nd, which is today, the night within which we have a comet coming through. This does prove some of the things within which was uttered by Christ, and to prove it to be true, because in the book of Revelations it says something specific to help you really understand where we're at. Now, what the Christ said is one thing, but hold on. Let us look at the events that took place within the day that the Mayan calendar came to an end. The Mayan calendar, once again, is in North America. It did not at all say it was the end of the world. What it translates into is the beginning of the end of civilization as you know it. So what does it say? What does it say? Well, it's not what it says. It's what was said on that day in the news and the things that you paid attention to. The first thing, as I pointed out, it told you could have been born under the astrological constellation of a snake. That's right. It's been exactly 144,000 years as it was in the beginning, so shall it be in the end. That's one. But furthermore, if you recall, on that day, the United States Supreme Court approved for the LGBT community to have rights all over, which is okay. And then there was another one, the Rainbow Coalition. Well, that looks like a drawing by Leonardo da Vinci, the Atomic Man. How he knew about atoms, I don't know. Which happened to have 3 feet, human body, 4 arms, but face of a man, face of a woman, something in between. But it also coincides with the book of Revelations. And I saw a great beast rise up out of the sea. Put your mind in space. 1 foot on the land and 1 foot on the sea. Its head, reproductive glands, if you pull back and look at our solar system, was covered with the radiance of the sun, surrounded by a rainbow. Rainbows don't make circles. His face was out of the clouds, but in his hand it held a little book upturned toward the heavens, and written therein were all the names of the book of life. So the first set of arms denote the lower heavens, which is separated by the asteroid belt. Then, or we look up, the second is the upper heavens, and therein lies what? The zodiac chart. As above, so below. So all of the monuments on the earth reflected one of those astrological constellations, to include the one of the snake, which was not visible to those who believed there was only 12 tribes, but there was 13 tribes of Judah, from which, according to the book of Hebrews chapter 7, where it speaks of Melchizedek, it tells you right up front that our Lord sprang from the tribe of Judah, from with which Moses spoke nothing concerning priesthood. So, my question to you with that realization is, how does that relate? It's very simple. The Rainbow Coalition is a global event that came into existence, not to mention the alphabet people. That's the third face and the third foot. But you don't hear me now. Y'all have a good one.